For many generations, the Nebulous King reigned supreme in the land of movie and video game news shows. The blank purity of his spirit and color scheme created a renaissance of peace and enlightenment for his subjects. All were bathed in the glory of the space. Until one day, his reign ended and the Empty One vanished, leaving instead a darkness and plague of pure opacity. Many have cried out for the return of the gutter space.
The only pop culture news show that's only worked on when the host has entered a deep depression and can't find the motivation to make anything else. Venom 3! It's just crazy to me that Venom has an entire live-action movie trilogy now. I never thought I'd see that happen. I still remember 2008 when there were fan-made rumors that Jim Carrey was going to play Carnage in Spider-Man 4. But we're here at Venom 3, with Eddie in the suit being hunted by obscure 90s comic pulls xenophages. I love these things! I wish the comics themselves did more with them. They're a species that can shapeshift into inanimate objects for cover, and they eat the heads of other creatures that are hosts to symbiotes because the space slime parasites make your brain taste better, I guess. The only place where I'm baffled is that these things seem to serve Knull. Now, I knew it was only a matter of time before the live-action Venom movies caught up to that. Knull is one of the biggest things ever added to Marvel lore. It was inevitable. He's Venom's biggest villain yet, and he's an ancient god of darkness that predates the known universe, and he created all the symbiotes billions of years ago to try to snuff out all life. Which is exactly as metal as it sounds. He even has a sword that makes symbiote monsters, and Christian Bale used it in that other movie, but they wanted to ignore the Venom connection, so they just instead are shadow monsters. But again, being the god of symbiotes, it's weird to see him shacked up with their natural predator that eats them to keep their population down in the food chain. Maybe they can write something like he hates the symbiotes for betraying him from the comics, and he's using the xenophages to prey on them until they're back under his control instead of running around the universe all unchecked. Now, I didn't invent Venom Horse, but I was one of the first people to introduce the idea to Earth audiences. So far, I've been pleased with the Venom trilogy's devotion to 90s Venom stories and using tons of material from, like, the Larry Hama run of all things. But also, I'm unsure on how they can handle something as serious and complex as the cosmic horror backstory introduced by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman in 2018. God, they better cut those guys a big check after using all this. Insomniac didn't. Sure, all the 90s stuff was funny and manic and insane and full of monsters and slime and toothy one-liners and Venom being a big silly asshole, but the modern Venom stuff is more prestigious and treats the character with more significance. As much as I defend them for being so good at giving us 90s Venom shitpost fun times, I don't know if I have the faith that they'll get the hard edge stuff right in these movies. Also, knowing Sony, with their track record, this is probably the post-credits scene, and it's teasing Venom 4, and Knull is in the movie for 3 shots total, and we've seen 2 of them.
I'm not sure how I got here. Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
That better not be Toxin. Why would you make him green? He's not green. Did they not have any idea how to make him more visually distinct from Carnage? I mean, I get it. To the layman, they look about the same, but his similarity as a half-Venom, half-Carnage hybrid served a thematic purpose, as did this other form with a more toned-down, closed-mouth look resembling Spider-Man. But this is just their Carnage design, but green. Please be Lasher or something. There were so many other Toxin designs they could have used, like the small yellow eyes, or the Agent Toxin look with the black skin and the red eyes, or the crazy Predator mouth he had for a bit. This would be so lazy and disappointing considering their track record for these movies doing a pretty good job so far. You know, despite the hiccup of accidentally misinforming the entire world that the Goo's name is Venom and Eddie is the serious one and the suit is the goofy asshole. Hey man, at the very least, everyone I know that's a big Venom fan likes these movies, okay? And I mean like a comic Venom fan, not some illiterate 19-year-old jackass who knows the character is Harry Osborn from the cartoons and thinks Eddie Brock is a disposable part of the entire damn thing. I hate you, the person I just made up in my head to get mad at. I hope you f***ing choke, theoretical guy that doesn't like Eddie Brock and says Insomniac Venom is a good adaptation. I created you just now and I'll end you! Meanwhile, Sony's only other successful Spider-Man thing that they have going on is hitting some roadblocks. The third movie in the Spider-Verse saga is being delayed until possibly 2027 at the latest, because they bit off more than they can chew with that overly ambitious back-to-back release date idea where they put part 2 and 3 a year apart. Apparently making the second one was a royal pain in the ass for the animators because the people above the line kept demanding finalized animation instead of previs for scenes they weren't even sure they'd keep in the final cut, and having to do the same scenes over and over in their entirety multiple times before getting approval. So you get little Johnny Animator Man spending 18 months of his life working 12-hour days, 7 days a week, hand animating and rendering a completed 15-minute sequence, only for a wishy-washy Lord and Miller to allegedly go, "Nah, you don't actually need to do that scene now, you can scrap it and just do this one instead." This is not a new problem, unfortunately. Hollywood executive people are stupid and can't look at a storyboard or pre-visualization to just get the gist. They have no imagination and need to see the entire thing completely finished to understand how it's supposed to look, which is a giant impractical waste of everyone's time. So while Across the Spider-Verse was definitely good and extremely well made, it was also a hodgepodge of like hundreds of iterations because Hollywood animation pipelines are weird about not sticking to the script, and are liable to change extensively during the actual animation process. This style of relentless revisionism has been a recurring problem since Toy Story and Pixar's early days. It's not great, but it's the system everyone's used to by now. Which doesn't excuse it, that sucks! My heart goes out to everyone working on animation on Part 3 because I just know that the micromanaging from directors and Sony execs is going to be even more harsh this time because they want to stick the landing on the conclusion to the trilogy and then they want to make up for all the other failed movies under their Spider-Man brand. For all we know, there could be like 8 hours of completed Spider-Verse scenes across all 3 of these movies that didn't make it into the theatrical cuts because the process is so improvisational. And all that completed work is going straight into the same dumpster as 30% of Spider-Man 3. Lord & Miller are producing a semi-spin-off kinda TV project of Spider-Man Noir starring Nicolas Cage in live action, and are having a heated debate with Sony about how to budget such a series. He's not allowed to be named Peter Parker in the series, so they're calling him Ben Reilly. It's fucking stupid. So, a new Alien movie came out. Why the fuck would Cinemark start selling the Alien Head popcorn bucket an entire month in advance of the actual release date of the movie? I bought tickets for the earliest possible screening on the Thursday preview night at the closest Cinemark, which is an hour away from my house, and then I get there and the bored teenager at the concession stand tells me they sold out weeks ago. So you can't fucking get this on opening day of the very movie it's a brand tie-in for? You don't want your customers to experience getting the cool merch item on opening day to go with the movie. It doesn't drum up hype and excitement for the movie beforehand. It just leads to a bunch of eBay scalpers bulk ordering them to flip them for like $200 each online. It's like a band selling t-shirts at the kiosk in a venue 30 days before the fucking concert starts. Do I really need to look up an article about where and when to get a fucking promotional popcorn bucket a month in advance and plan my day around it like I'm trying to time it right to get into a limited Fortnite event? Is that really where we're at with this shit because Dune accidentally made a fleshlight? Fuck you, Cinemark! But my friend James got me one, so it all worked out. Also, I didn't end up liking the movie that much, unfortunately. I will say, though, I always thought people sounded stupid saying a character was a precious cinnamon bun too pure for this world must be protected at all costs, until I saw Andy the Android, and then it all made sense. I would die for Andy the Android. Ugh. I really feel like this has been the most fumbled and poorly handled console generation of my entire life so far. No one I know has a PS5 yet, like 3 people max. Hell, I barely managed to get one myself, but I knew I'd need it for videos. I feel like most people I talk to don't even know the Slim version was released already, so the PS5 Pro announcement just feels like, what are you guys doing? Come on. I know the PS4 Pro came out about the same time in the life cycle of that console, but this time it just feels rushed by comparison when the base console still hasn't become a commonplace in every household yet. It's like $800 if you're getting it with the optional disc drive, but I just think making a gaming console without a disc drive is evil and anti-consumer. Yeah, laugh it up, PC dicks.
Oh, you console gamers still play games on discs?
How retro! I've been using Steam since 2007 on a vast array of $3,000 gaming PCs that I upgrade annually. I didn't realize how hard you poors still had it. Maybe it's time to move into the future like a civilized gamer.
One day some asshole in a suit and tie with more money than God, who's never even played a video game before, is going to delete half the games in your library for no reason, and you'll wish you had discs then. Physical media forever, suck my disc drive, you corpo bastards. I bought the game, so I should be able to play it when I want.
The same way I can watch a DVD or read a book, damn it. Or at least that's how this would work if they had any games. Dead Space Remake was pretty good. That didn't have a PS4 port. Yeah, you know how I feel about Spider-Man 2. Come on, don't ask me about that. Anyway, these graphical improvements are hard to notice because we've hit the plateau of graphical fidelity in games, and pitch-perfect photorealism is no longer impressive. It's the standard. Games look nicer than ever, but they're not as fun to play. They're constantly shutting down forever just because they didn't make a profit in 2 weeks, and their budgets have ballooned to the point that they can't break even without making a completely unreasonable sales quota, and the developers who make them are losing their jobs by the thousands, while the executives who keep crashing the bus into a brick wall get away with an even bigger bonus than last year. We're in the dark ages, kids. This industry is hurtling straight into the sun. Video game workers should unionize. Sonic 3 is coming out. I wish Shadow was voiced by Robert Pattinson instead because he's better at voice acting from what I've heard. I love Keanu, but he isn't as strong an actor behind the mic, much like most actors of his caliber.
Koopas!
Then again, what do I know? I don't even like the Sonic games. I'm one of those god-awful people that only watches the movies and has vague memories of Sonic X. The trailer for Minecraft is released, and oh boy, this should have just been animated. This looks like some shit Diego and I would make when reviewing Minecraft games. I wish I could peek my head into the universe where Rob McElhenney made this movie and it was entirely animated. As it is, this is one of those things that just feels like it's coming out a little bit too late, like Slender Man or Five Nights at Freddy's. This would have been killer if it dropped in like 2016, but development hell and dozens of screenwriters and a million cooks in the kitchen later, and now you... Wow, you threw away Tenacious D for this? Destin Daniel Creighton has been named as the official director of Spider-Man Home Something 4. Now, I know at least the fight choreography will get a nice shot in the arm since that was the big selling point of Shang-Chi. I'm eager for that because MCU Spider-Man has had some weak-ass fight scenes so far compared to his predecessors and didn't really start to get into it until 3 movies in. Because him and Punisher are the MCU's greatest surf Draculas to date. Rumors keep swirling that somehow the multiverse is involved again, and oh boy, that's sure wearing pretty damn thin. Please give it a break. God, it was so cool in like 2019, and now we run it into the ground. Oh, and speaking of running it into the ground, Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom is the most desperate and pathetic grab for the good graces of the general audience to return since the rise of Skywalker. This isn't based on any Iron Man and Dr. Doom comics that you Googled after the announcement. You and I both know the MCU doesn't care about those as far as they can throw them. They don't adapt these stories, they adapt, like, the titles of them, and maybe, like, 1 or 2 scenes per movie. I really think the intention is for us to all just accept that the characters in the story don't recognize his face and don't associate him with Iron Man. And it's like Rhodey or General Ross looking different. You know, because they were recast. It's one of those things that the audience is aware of, but the characters aren't. Alright, I know representing cultures in our movies wasn't as big a thing in the olden days. They didn't know any better back then, and I won't fault them for casting an American, an Australian, and an Englishman, respectively, as Doom. But it would be really nice for one of these to finally delve into his backstory from the comics about being from a Romani tribe, and how that informs the character. In 2024, I think it's more than fair to expect some effort in that department for A, maintaining accuracy to the comics, and B, highlighting a really underrepresented culture in our movies. But getting an unknown Roma actor that actually fits the character's personality won't sell tickets, and this overpaid smug mug on movie posters does. So sure, let him eat up 1/3 of the budget with his ridiculous paycheck. Let him constantly take his mask off for actor vanity despite playing a character that never takes his mask off as a main personality trait, because that always works so well. To end this video on something that's not cynical and negative, For the 40th anniversary of Transformers, Studio Trigger made a really cool animated music video to commemorate the highlights of the franchise so far, and I thought all the Robots in Disguise 2001 and Armada references were great. Plus some Beast Wars sprinkled in. Beast Machine's got like 2 little 1-second cameos, which is more than I thought they would get. I miss all these characters from over the years. It's nice to see some Earthspark rep included too, considering Nickelodeon took that series out back and shot it. I'm gonna miss that funny Filipino dad character. He reminded me of my grandpa. Like, he looked exactly like him, kinda. Transformers 1 was really cool. It's like this franchise's Spider-Verse. God, I like Transformers a lot. I wish I could talk about Transformers on the channel more. Maybe one day I should do a Transformers video series. Comment what Transformers video you want me to do in the comments hole.